Hey, um, just back with more of my story, Trapped in the Game, an NPC survival story. This is part three of my live recording, so please enjoy. The sound of rustling parchment fills the room. This time, the holy daughter of the Red Sect is alone at a desk. The desk is entirely covered with scrolls. The variety of different sigil types is alarming. It makes no sense how a nobody that the sect had abducted could have this wealth of knowledge. Even masters with decades of experience would be unlikely to have this level of professional knowledge, and Cole Luna doesn't look to be over 20 years old. A thought stirs in the Holy Daughter's mind. Perhaps it isn't the boy at all. Traditionally, the initiation process summons a demon to inhabit the vessel of the acolyte. A melding occurs where the demon can be summoned or used to augment the acolyte's body. From the moment Koluna completed his initiation, she had assumed that as she could barely sense the demon, it must be weak. But perhaps she had deceived herself. It seemed likely that the entity that had been summoned might not be a traditional demon. The most likely otherworldly entities that could be captured by the initiation were low level demons. Anything higher than that would have the means to escape the soul, unless they wanted to be captured. Kolina had only shown some combat potential according to the Red Priests, but after an early hunt for simple gophers, he hadn't ventured into the wilds as most acolytes would. Somehow he had managed to manipulate the immortal braves into procuring resources for his practice. His relationship with the immortals and his innate understanding of inscription make him an outlier among the disciples of the Crimson God. Added to these aspects is his understanding of the forbidden knowledge of the sect. Were he a member of rank, there might be some small chance of having gleaned knowledge of the kings of corruption, and she would be inclined to punish him for distributing the knowledge freely. But even she felt some hope that his claim of the four tombs existing was true. Reviewing the scrolls repeatedly, she recognizes their uselessness for her. Her power far exceeds the potency of the inscriptions, but they would be a game changer for even the Red Priests, not to mention the Acolytes. She thinks for a moment before stacking the scrolls and setting them aside. She stares at her doorway for a long moment. Despite her power and privilege of position, she's at a loss for how to deal with a single acolyte. The following day, Cole sets up shop and begins working on his craft. At some point, the boy logs in and silently begins to work a little ways off from Cole. The comings and goings of the players carry on while until the woman from the day before returns with hopeful eyes. Cole sees her approach. Hi, Cole, she says fawningly. Hey, he says in return. She hesitates for a moment. You said you might have something for me today. Cole nods and pulls out one of the tomes he had prepared the day before. He thinks for a moment about what he should request in exchange, settling on a relatively small sum of gold coins. The woman's excitement cools for a moment, but she grits her teeth and uses her life savings to buy the rudimentary laws of engraving. After getting the tome in her hands, she seems to instantly forget about the loss of a few pieces of gold. Thank you, thank you, thank you, she says excitedly. Cole warns her again. Engraving isn't a conventional combat class, but be sure that you want to do it before learning from the tome. She collects herself and nods solemnly. I know. Cole watches her walk away to begin learning from the book. Cole turns to the boy for a moment and sees that the stones he's working on are only partially mangled instead of outright hideous. With peace returned, Cole opens an empty tome and gets to work. Word of the magic class change books spreads through the thousands of Red Sect players, with many coming forward to buy one from him. The speed at which he prints each tome increases, but he has difficulty supplying enough for the demand. The saving grace for Cole is that most of the players recognize engraving as a high skill class. Most players would rather just hit things till they die. The days carry on peacefully. Cole has more material than he needs, and his wallet is heavy with coin. While the man is musing over his current situation, a familiar figure approaches. Wulan has long forgotten her resentment over the dancing incident and regularly approaches him to chat and take on quests. She beams at him with a smug look on her face. Cole, I have something you might like. He raises his eyebrow, and an inkling of expectation stirs in him. What is it? He asks curiously. Wulan lingers for a moment in her supremacy. Proof. Her single word confirms his expectation. Great, he says. May I see it? The young woman pulls a round shield from her inventory. Handing over the item, Wulan looks expectantly at him. Cole looks over the shield until he finds an engraving on the inside lip of the object. The king's campaign against the sun led us to the cursed oasis. Cole thought for a moment. Undoubtedly, the clue referenced the desert to the northwest, where the valley's red dust turned to golden sand. A notable respite from the hot sun should be this king's resting place. Good work, he says as he confirms her quest completion. Giddy with expectation, Wulon asks, So, when do we go? Cole looks at her and smiles enigmatically. Not yet. Boo, she groans. You used to be fun, you know. Cole looks at her oddly. He doesn't recall such a time. When the two other tombs are found, I will have work for you if you want. Wulon smiles brightly. It's a promise. The woman decides as much unilaterally. In truth, he only needs a 5-man team to escort him to and through the tombs. Wulon and Dancing Dagger are at the top of his list of helpers, so he doesn't mind the young woman's decision. Cole stores the shield and carries on with his rudimentary law books. In the quiet spaces of the Red Sect's temple, whispers are being spread. The night of the red moon is fast approaching. Every year, an event takes place in the Crimson Valley. Aberrant energies touch upon the ley lines of the land, opening portals to the twisted hells. Demons of every variant come forth from the portals with an appetite for flesh. The Red Sect has long planned for this yearly occurrence. While the event is dangerous and has led to the death of many disciples of the sect throughout its existence, there is also opportunity. Every part of a demon has use for the sect, and with the yearly occurrence of so many demons coming to them, they don't have to sacrifice their enslaved demons for parts. The blood, hearts, horns, and more sensitive parts of demons have been used in both demonology and blood magic specializations. Every year, the acolytes and priests fight desperately, but a new element has miraculously manifested: the immortal braves. With the undying players present, the sect can avoid sending the precious disciples into the jaws of death. This event also promises perks to Cole. With demon blood available, Cole will have a rare substance to work with. The beasts of the field suffice, but they lack the arcane energies found in demon blood. Of course, with a higher quality material, the difficulty of in its use would also increase. Cole's eyes gleam with excitement. The Red Priests are preparing the temple for the demonic incursion. The vendors are temporarily forced to pick up and move into the safety of the temple. Cole stows his table and chair but remains standing in his usual spot. Other representatives of the Red Sect take up their positions throughout the forum, though Cole is the only acolyte to do so. Each Red Priest has quests for culling and harvesting the demons, but Cole knows from experience with events like this that each quest was a one-off. Reach your quota and you're done. Fortunately, Cole had control over his quests and could set them to reset on completion, allowing the player to complete a quest as often as they were able. Cole wrote up a few new quests for the occasion. Quest name, Imp Blood. Quest name, Fellhunter Blood. Quest name, Succubus Blood. Quest name, Felguard Heart. Quest name, Pitlord Heart. Quest name, Soul Shards. Description: kill demons to collect soul shards. Return to Cole Luna with 10 soul shards. Rewards: 10,000 XP, plus 5 reputation with Cole Luna, 1 random inscription. The quests he offers are largely in competition with the quests offered by the Red Priests, but he knows that the players will perform the tasks set by the priests with priority, because they need to gain a reputation with the Red Sect and not just Cole. That said, Cole stands to gain a lot from this event. The players fill the forum as if it were a festival. They talk excitedly among themselves and run to and fro, speaking with the quest givers. The largest group of players hanging out around the forum is, of course, gathered around Cole. He's able to eavesdrop on the conversations of the players. Is this event related to the Kings of Corruption? One player asks. I don't know. Could be. But I'm more curious about Cole. The Red Priests offer 2 or maybe 3 quests, but the man himself offers half a dozen quests. Do you think he secretly rules over the Red Sect and just pretends to be a mere acolyte? The question causes a stir in the gathering. That's what I've been saying, another player says with emphasis. He's a hero character, maybe even the Red Sect's champion. Others chime in with their theories until one brave player stands before Cole fearlessly. Cole, he says, we've all been wondering, what's your role in the sect? Cole looks at the man and to the numerous expectant faces behind him. For a moment, he thinks on how he should answer the question. I'm. He pauses for effect. The lore master. Odd expressions appear on the gathered faces. They had been prepared for him to admit to being the sect master or even the Holy Son. But lore master? It was somehow disappointing. Not everyone was disappointed, though. Some appreciated the value of of a good lore master. Others had suspicious expressions on their faces, obviously doubting Cole's humble claim. Only Cole knew that there was no such role in the sect. He simply used the claim to misdirect the greedy players. As the gathering waited for the event to begin, Cole casually engaged with the players. A few of his students in engraving were particularly interested in having his ear so that they could discuss the array structures of the sigils they engraved. The boy, Jake Snow, silently stayed behind Cole, dutifully carving a stone in imitation of of one of the engraved stones Cole had given him. The boy was making noteworthy progress and had successfully attained the official class of engraver. He didn't speak a lot, but he was very committed. On the horizon, a thunderstorm was building. Purple and black clouds would momentarily be illuminated by white lightning as it cut through them. A few brave, but mostly stupid, immortals left the safety of the temple forum, hoping to get the first kills. Cole knew from experience that this was not a tactic for surviving a beast tide, or in this case, a demon tide. Woot woot! A young voice carries over the gathering. It's starting! The players write. Green currents of energy begin coalescing all across the wide Crimson Valley. Fissures cut the soil at irregular intervals, and tears of fell green seem to rip open holes in space. For a moment, time stands still. The wind dies, and the players go silent. But a scratching sound grows progressively more audible, and gross, ripping sounds disturb the soul of any mortal who hears them. First, one demon steps out of from the tears in space, then another, then 100. Before the players can get their bearings, thousands of hideous abominations infused with the corruption of fell green energy fill the valley before them. The demons catch a whiff of a pleasant scent, mortal souls. En masse, the demons charge the base of the temple. The thousands of players outnumber the demons for now, but ever more demons breach their gates and enter the human realm. The initial shock of the demon's entrance past, the wind turns up to a tempest as screams and cries leave the lips of the excited players. They charge forth to meet the monstrosities with swords, shields, arrows, and magical attacks. Members of both forces bleed out hundreds at a time. The dead players simply wait for their respawn cooldown to come up and appear in the temple. They have to descend the long stairway and cross the forum to rejoin the battlefield. For every demon slaughtered by the immortal braves, 10 more quickly gate in to wage a bloody war on the humans. As the fighting spills out over the valley, a defined battlefield manifests with flanks and bulwarks, staving off enemy intrusion. For the moment, the players are holding out, but every death costs time before the players return. The demons are spawning into the zone too quickly. If the line of players falls, the disciples of the Red Sect will have to face the threat. It's an acceptable eventuality, but NPCs don't return to life. It doesn't take long for the first batch of quests to be completed. The battlefield became increasingly ragged as players run back to the forum to collect their rewards. There are enthusiastic smiles on the faces of every player. The event is a boon to them, and very exciting to be a part of. Cole has set the quest turn-ins to automatic so that a player needs to do is be within a few meters for the quest prompt to show up. The same was done for them to accept and refresh the quests. Cole waits patiently for the first wave to pass. This first wave includes small fry demons who can be killed relatively easily. The next few waves wouldn't be so easy, as elites would start appearing in increasing numbers. After the elites were added to the mix, then came the sub boss lieutenants. And finally, To end the demon tide, a boss would warp into the battlefield. A lull in the battle comes, and the players are given several minutes of reprieve. The enthusiasm is still there. However, some who had died in battle weren't as happy as the more successful players. The gap between waves gives the players a chance to turn in quests and recover their health and mana. Cole patiently observes as the Red Priests congratulate the valor of the players and offer them rewards. The process is much faster than Cole had. Cole. The process is much faster for Cole, who had automated the process. He notes the odd looks on the faces of players as they look from the Red Priests to Cole, but he doesn't care about their suspicions. He just watches the players rush back and forth. It doesn't take long for the second wave to begin. This time, more elite demons like the humanoid Felguard and six-armed Shivas walk out from the twisted realm they were born in. The players are the players, for all their valor, are still new to Cosmos, and most have simply adapted their playstyle the best they can. In-depth analysis of class attributes and styles are only beginning to educate the immortals on how to play. Still, they're eager, and they push back the line of demons time and again. The stream of players reviving in the temple grows thicker as the battle takes its toll on the immortals. Cole continues to patiently observe. The Red Priests had already handed out the easy quest rewards, and the number of players seeking them out is less pronounced than during the first wave. But Cole is more popular than ever as hundreds of players are at a time seek out rewards and renewed quests. The last of the elites of the second wave fall, and so the wave ends. The battle grows more difficult, and the expressions on the faces of the players are growing somber. The players do what they can to rest and return to the battlefield ready for the hell that is to follow. As the first demonic cry cuts across the battlefield, Cole leaves his place in the forum and casually walks into the valley behind the line of immortals. Cole looks around and casually pulls out a stone he had engraved with the Iron Will inscription. The spell would boost in combat health and mana recovery for up to 5 players within 50 meters for 30 minutes. He sets this stone with care and on the ground and moves off to another location on the battlefield. Cole alternates the buff stones at regular intervals. Some stones will enhance the survivability of players, while others boost the damage the affected players can dish out. The battlefield is narrowed by the shape of the valley and comes like a funnel up to the base of the temple. So Cole doesn't worry about the range of the effects of his buff stones, but the number of characters his buff stones can affect is between 5 to 10 at a time. In a battle of thousands, the number is trivial, unless one had hundreds upon hundreds of buff stones in their inventory. His efforts don't go unnoticed. As soon as he began moving, many eyes were on him. The players were ecstatic when they see what he is doing. As the number of buff stones begins to grow by the dozen, a shift in the battle takes place. The terror and dread of vicious demons seems trivial in the face of an NPC boosting their army's combat proficiency. While Cole places stone after stone, players continue to turn in quests. And since he came to them, they don't even have to run too far. The elites of the waves fall under the power of the immortal army. When the when the current wave ends, Cole remains on the battlefield, perfecting an array of stones in a way that optimizes the proficiencies of the immortal army. While Cole goes about his business, he overhears the whispers of the players. He's participating. I thought the Red Sect would only act if we fell back too far. Well, duh. He's a hero character. Of course he's fighting with us. He's not fighting, though. He's just dropping stones. I would have expected a hero character to dive into battle with the toughest enemy around. He's an engraver, idiot. He's just playing to his strength. That's true. But I never thought an engraver would be of any use in an actual battle. Dude, he hasn't even used any of his scrolls. He doesn't even give out the blood inscriptions. Imagine if he released those. The gossip stirs all around Cole, but he pays it no mind. The next wave sees the release of the lieutenants of the demon horde on top of all that came before. Massive pit lords with ugly lizard centaurs with mighty horns and flat faces charge the immortal line with giant glaives. The immortals buckle under the ferocity of this new threat. Hundreds die by the minute. Even with Cole's assistance, things are looking bad for the defenders of the Red Sect. Cole doesn't mind, though. He has enough experience with these things to judge the tides of a battle of this scale. He just minds his stones. But he makes a change when he reaches a certain threshold with the buff stones. Instead, he lays down area of effect trap stones close to the front line. When the immortal defenders inevitably fall back under the weight of the demon horde, the demons will stumble upon the stones, igniting explosions that will only damage hostile units. It would not affect the immortals unless the immortal attacked Cole. The stones are one off mines. When one is triggered, it will disintegrate, so Cole isn't stingy. Stone after stone is laid down, while the demons push the defenders back. Suddenly, a chain of explosions erupts, startling the many players who had noticed his actions. The demon line cares nothing for their losses and recklessly enters the minefield. Even the pit lords, with their massive bodies, are steadily shredded by the explosive power. As the last pit lord falls, the wave ends. The surviving immortals stare blankly at the busy engraver. There just isn't any logic to it. His combat power is ridiculous. Cole ignores everything and throws down another 100 or so stones with both offensive and support effects. Before the final wave begins, Cole makes his timely exit from the stage. He might have been confident on the field before, but against a whole wave of weak demons, elites, lieutenants, and of course the boss, there's no sense in him remaining on the battlefield. As an NPC, he knows better than most that there is no coming back from death. He still doesn't know if, perhaps in death, he would go back to his old life, but he isn't willing to test the theory. The players who had died come running down the stairs and through the forum, often throwing Cole odd looks. The players who had died, yeah, the quest runners come and go like the wind. Everyone is tense before the next wave comes. High above the forum, the holy daughter of the Red Sect looks out on the battlefield. She had expected much worse results. Even with the immortals fighting through death, she had expected her priests and acolytes to be brought into the fight, but they hadn't. except one. Her keen eyes can capture every aspect of the battlefield, even from such a distance. She'd watch she'd watched Koluna as though he were the center of the entire event. The immortals seemed obsessed with him, following him like a swarm of flies. The man himself seemed indifferent. He acted of his own accord, but his actions carried more weight than any of her red priests. This alone was baffling, but what followed shocked her immensely. His confident stride into the battlefield and odd tendency to drop a stone at regular intervals was confusing to watch. But wherever he went, wherever he placed a stone, the immortals fought stronger than before. And then the explosions came. A series of deafening blasts rocked the valley. Their origin was the same stones Koluna had been placing the entire time. A deep disquiet settled over the Holy Daughter's soul. Had she created a monster? Unaffected by the concerns of the Holy Daughter, Cole relaxes in the forum. Jake Snow, Cole's apprentice, doesn't say much, but he's heard a lot. The players were talking heatedly about the shocking display of power their favorite NPC had just shown. Dude, one man says to another, I heard about how Cole's selling class change manuals. I didn't think much of it before, but yeah, his fellow comments. I've played a lot of games before, but I've never seen anything like this. Engraver shouldn't be this powerful, should it? I mean, it's got to be because he's a hero character, right? Could a player use the Engraver class like that? The Gathering has more questions than answers, but Jake knows the answer. He knew before any of the rest that Cole's Engraver class was powerful. The boy isn't prone to emotions, but a certain sense of pride comes over him. Even if the rest of them manage to get a class change manual from Cole, only the boy gets to be Cole's apprentice. Cole himself was aware of the shift in public sentiment towards him, but it doesn't mean much. Players are naturally ephemeral beings. Of course, they'd think his class was powerful if he used his resources well. But then they'd see a powerful warrior going toe to toe with a dragon, and everyone would want to be a warrior. Still, there's no harm in printing more class change manuals for any who want to follow his path. Confident of the course of the battle, Cole takes his table and chair out from his inventory and begins writing a fresh manual. His display of indifference causes the red priests who are nearby to feel awkward. They hadn't seen his actions on the battlefield and can only think him a reckless acolyte. The course of the battle is tenuous, but far from dire. Most of the small fry and elites were devastated by the explosive stones. The lieutenants fared better, but with the players freed up from dealing with the small fry, the pit lords and their ilk were easily handled. The danger comes from the boss. The exceedingly tall humanoid figure casts magic upon the defending humans, cursing them with weakness. Hundreds of players at a time are enfeebled, crippling their abilities. At least that's how it should have been. But with the wide variety of buff stones, the buffs and debuffs merely cancel each other out. That's not to say that the battle is easy. The boss is far tougher and stronger than the lieutenants before. The stream of immortals descending the temple stairway finally stops. Victory has been achieved. The boss, like the rest, falls under the combined onslaught of the immortal army. The demon tide had ended. Tens of thousands of corpses litter the field beyond the temple forum. Players collect the last of their resources and turn them in for quest rewards. Looking at the mess, the players don't know what to do. The scene is like a hellscape, with mangled monstrosities oozing green blood into the soil. But they worry for nothing. This is the Red Sect. They specialize in demons. Red priests lead an army of acolytes into the field and begin collecting the demon bodies for transport into the heart of the temple. Cole is oblivious to the task of cleaning up. He favors drawing up more class change manuals. The books are fairly short, and he can draw the sigils quickly and with his proficiency. Cole, a group of enthusiastic players greet him with friendly expressions. You were a godsend out there. Yeah, your buffs are better than anyone else's. You saved our asses multiple times. Cole nodded. I'm glad I could help. Even as undying immortals, I'm sure you'd prefer not to taste death. The gathered players nod their heads. Cole, one of the players says, do you have any more engraver class change manuals for sale? The gathered players all look at him expectantly. Cole looks at them for a moment. You do realize that the class isn't technically a combat class, right? They nod their heads enthusiastically. Cole nods. I have a few. If you want one, just ask. Most of the players just stand back, preferring not to give up their current classes, but a few among their ranks step forward with gold in their wallets. Cole finds it remarkable how adaptable humans can be. Cosmos has a very large number of potential classes to play, but most of these stem from a few base classes: warrior, priest, rogue, mage, ranger, and a few others. Players who focus on crafting professions tend to have a double weakness of needing to kill monsters for the materials of their profession and being too weak to kill those monsters. This is why crafting professions are considered money sinks. Engraving starts as a cheap profession to learn, but the cost of materials grows prohibitively expensive as one advances. The fact that Cole has progressed so far so fast is because he exploits the players. Without them hunting for his materials, he would still be carving rocks. As the last of the players return from the battlefield, many turn in their quests to Cole. In addition to the wealth of materials he's gained, Cole earned a cut of all the experience he distributed. His current XP is over 3 million. Flush with XP, he decides it's time to buy some potential points and improve his stats. Name: Cole Luna, class Engraver, evolutionary rating F. Evolution meter 0 out of 3,500,000. Strength 5, agility 5, stamina 10, mind 13, spirit 7, dexterity 12, potential point 0, sharpen 6, identify weakness 6, steady hand 8. The cost of potential points has grown exorbitant, but it's worth the price. With his increased stats, particularly in mind and dexterity, he can achieve greater feats in his art. Cole closes the menu and looks around. The majority of the players are caught up in the post victory celebration. Some even brought some even bought some expensive alcohol from one of the vendors who's returning to the forum and are throwing small parties for their friends. While Cole is looking around, he sees the familiar Wulon approach with a lightness to her step. Hi, Cole, the pretty young woman says in greeting. Hello, Wulon. She tilts her head as she looks at him. You're keeping secrets again. The woman states plainly. Cole can't help but find the notion funny. He just gave up a lot of secrets by participating in the battle. I don't know what you mean. Wulon laughs, a light but humorless laugh. You're not fooling anyone, Cole. We can all see it. His eyebrow raises in confusion. You're not a slave of the Red Sect cult. Cole's eyes shake as he at her revelation of his secret. We immortals fall under the Red Sect faction, but the indoctrination doesn't work on us. But the acolytes, of which you are one, are all enslaved. Except you, of course. Cole shifts on his feet, suddenly uncomfortable. Wulon continues. I've talked to every member of the cult that's accessible to us immortals. There are certain traits common to them all: aberrant behavioral patterns, a demonic influence, and a fanaticism for the Crimson God and the Red Sect. You don't demonstrate any of these behaviors any more than is required. It's not hard to see that you are free from their indoctrination. Ko looks at her evenly. If the Holy Daughter catches a whiff of Wulon's theory, he doesn't want to know what will happen to him. He realizes that he's been reckless and complacent. The Holy Daughter's evolutionary ranking is much higher than his. It doesn't matter how many points in his stats he has if he doesn't get the qualitative modifier of the ranking. As he is, he would be crushed by the Holy Daughter if she had reason to suspect his disloyalty. He needs to grow stronger. Cole thinks for a moment before looking deep into Wulon's eyes. And what if I told you you were correct? The woman's eyes widen in delight. I'd ask if you needed any help. Cole hears her answer and understands that she, as a player, holds no loyalty towards the Red Sect, but does hold some level of loyalty to him because he's interesting. I'll let you know. Wulon smiles softly before turning. As she walks away, she says, You better. Feeling fatigued, Cole returns to his room and lies down to sleep. The next day, Cole looks through the digital forum for Planet Rune. The posts are as chaotic as one might imagine. An open flame war has started between the lawful good Arclight Kingdom players and the chaotic evil Red Sect players. The players haven't even had the opportunity to meet in game, but they already hate each other just by being keyboard warriors. Hella jealous. Ha ha ha, you Arclight plebeians. You know nothing of power. Our Red Sect faction has a bona fide hero character, whereas you only know feeble NPCs. Ark the lad. Yeah, yeah. You've been talking about him a lot. He's just a quest giver. Grow up. Hella jealous. STFU, noob. Your news is outdated. Koluna is confirmed to be a hero character. He fought beside our forces during the Demon Tide. Bona fide hero unit. Can't wait to see your faces when we wipe your ass on the battlefield. Ark the lad. Quit lying, kid. Singer's song. It's true. Cole Luna is a hero unit. Changed the course of the battle all on his own. Didn't see the Red Priests make a move, just Cole. The debate carries on for hundreds of pages, with mostly venom being passed between the factions. Cole looks over the other threads and doesn't see anything useful or interesting. Closing the menu, Cole returns to the forum below the temple and checks the general store vendor. Hey, the middle aged shopkeeper says in casual recognition, what can I get for you? Cole scans the available supplies and settles on another table. Only this one is double the length of the one he uses for his craft. Sure, the woman says when he tells her his purchase. Come again. Cole returns to his traditional spot and sets up the long double the long table beside his smaller one with the chair. Cole sets down a few items on the long table: class change manuals, dragonfly ink, harpy feather quills, and pristine stones. Other than the class change manuals, the players bring him a steady supply of the materials he's planning to sell. Some might recognize the exploitation, but none would question an NPC's use of items earned through such means. Cole draws the attention of the nearby players for his new and novel action. Some of the players have been keeping an eye on Cole so that whenever he does something new, they'll be the first to reap the rewards. Cole uses the vendor function through the menu, turning his table into an official store. The items on the table turn illusory. They can be touched and picked up by the players, but unless paid for, can't be taken away. Of course, high level thieves would have no issue stealing from Cole's table. Fortunately, there aren't any thieves skilled enough to rob a vendor yet. Cole takes some time to price each item. There's no need to gouge his clients, so Cole doesn't charge more than a few silver for the materials, while the class change manuals cost several gold coins. I've talked to every member of the cult that's accessible to us immortals. There are certain traits common to them all. This arrangement should benefit the players who jump into the engraver class with him. He becomes the medium by which they avoid hours of fruitless searching in the wilds for materials. While he gets a token offering of silver, the first of the customers approaches it with curiosity. The man looks like a barbarian with a crude axe. He steps up to the table and reviews the items. "Hey, Cole," he says with a familiar tone in his voice. "I'm glad you're selling goods, but don't you think you should sell some scrolls or maybe even those engraved stones?" Cole looks up from his inscription. "I'll think about it." The barbarian clicks his tongue. "I get you. I'll be waiting." With that, the barbarian shuffles off. Cole doesn't get a moment alone before several other players approach. "Damn," one says. "Not just a class trainer, but a class vendor?" I'm actually kind of envious of those switching over to the engraver class. "I know what you mean. Cole's the only class trainer in the red sect. I had to earn my class the hard way, while the engravers get loads of help." Cole disregards the rabble and for some time, waits for someone to step forward and buy one of the class change manuals. "It's kind of intimidating," the woman says, "but I admire you, Cole. There's something wonderful about how you overcome adversity." Cole looks at the lunatic for a moment before nodding. "Ah," she says, "I'll also need some stones." The woman finishes her purchase, bows, and walks away. Cole doesn't know when it happened, but at some point the players started treating him like a friend they could trust. He shakes his head. Weirdos will do as weirdos do. Cole looks over his shoulder and sees Jake Snow busy carving one of the many pristine stones Cole had given him. Standing up, Cole walks over to the boy and looks at a pile of engraved stones. The stones each carry a rudimentary sigil with shaky lines. They almost look pretty. At this point, the boy's engraved spells are functional, but they are lacking significantly in power compared to the similar saint stones Cole would carve. It's not bad progress all told. How do you feel you're doing, Jake? The boy looks up with intense eyes. Not well, he says with some consternation. Cole cocks his head to the side. Why do you say that? The boy huffs. They're all scratchy. I can't get the smooth lines like in your stones. Cole nods. I suppose you're right. What level is your steady hand skill? What level is your steady hand trait and your dexterity attribute? The boy hesitates before looking at his menu. My steady hand is at 1 and I don't have a dexterity attribute. Cole nods. Invest a few potential points into steady hand and keep working till you get dexterity unlocked. The boy's gaze fills with resolve as he says, "Yes, teacher." Cole leaves the boy to his work and minds his own. The days proceed pleasantly for Cole, even though the percentage of players who want to class change to engraver remains around 1%. There are thousands of players in the region, with more players starting every day. In addition to the high demand for class change manuals, the professional materials Cole sells are hot items. Fortunately, now suppliers come in every hour of the day. Fortunately, new supplies come in every hour of the day. While preoccupied with thoughts of his business ventures, Cole doesn't notice a large figure approach. The barbarian from before stands before him, a satisfied glimmer in his eye. Yes? Cole asks. I found it. Cole blinks audibly. It? Your blasted proof, Cole. Understanding dawns on Cole. I see. The barbarian pulls out a padded drumstick, like one would use to strike a gong. Cole takes the item and looks at the inscription. The king's burrow rests where night is eternal. Comprehension dawns on Cole. The tomb is, fittingly, in a dangerous part of the valley where undead roam freely. Thank you. He looks at the barbarian's name. Goldie. Goldie smiles as his quest is confirmed to be completed. I want in, the barbarian says. In? Cole asks. Yeah, Goldie says. I want in on the expedition. I'm assuming you know where to find the tomb from the clue. Cole nods. Okay, that seems fair. Goldie smiles a fierce smile and starts selling some inscriptions. They would have helped me get the blasted drumstick. Cole looks away. I'll think about it. The barbarian sighs. Anyways, keep me informed. You're the only member of the Red Sect who's doing anything interesting. Cole nods. These days, the players have high expectations for him. Cosmos does have impressive quest lines and NPC interactions, though to be fair, Cole had experienced 6 expansions of improvements over the life cycle of the game. The vanilla version of Cosmos could be said to have a more bare bones system. Cole provides several services that can be said to be non existent in any other NPC besides himself. There were other hero characters across Cosmos. Rune had a number of them that would rise to acclaim until the after the that wouldn't rise to acclaim until after the players advanced beyond the starting zones. Cole's actions break with the system's standard, and he has an intuitive understanding of the system that allows him to exploit the players in ways that other NPCs wouldn't consider. Cole brings up his reputation tab. A long list of players descends from highest affinity to lowest. A few players like Wulon and Dancing Dagger have thousands of points of reputation with him, almost breaking out from neutral to friendly. Every reputation advance will provide the users with exclusive perks like discounts and specialized quests. He would have to figure out what rewards he would give the players when they reach a breakthrough. Cole clears his mind of random thoughts and continues his work. The holy daughter of the Red Sect is seated upon a pristine white throne in a secret room of the temple of her sect. Before her is a line of red priests. There have been rumors of the immortals discovering clues to the location of the tombs of the four kings of corruption, a priest says with reverence. The holy daughter's head is turned to the side, a vacant look on her face. My lady, the priest continues, it seems that acolyte Luna is collecting these proofs. At the mention of the enigmatic acolyte, the holy daughter turns to look at the priest. The look in her eyes causes a shiver to course through the priest's body. How are his lessons proceeding? Her question startles the priest. He stumbles for words. Acolyte Luna has been actively attending his lessons in blood magic and participates in the indoctrination when directed to. Perhaps, the Holy Daughter says, he should advance to the rank of Red Priest. The Red Priests present bristle at the suggestion. My lady, it may be true that this acolyte has demonstrated high aptitude in his study and has an abnormal comprehension of symbols of power, but but the sect has set laws on the seniority system. Acolyte Luna has not even been a part of the sect for half a year. Concerning your eminence, it is simply not possible to promote this acolyte at this time. The holy daughter gazes at the priests and priestesses. Their resolve is firm on the matter. With a sigh, she looks away. Among the members of the Red Sect, she was the only one to see the demonstration of Acolyte Luna's power. But there is no point in arguing his renown. Procedure is procedure. What do you propose we do about these proofs? She asks, returning to the main issue. The priest speaks again. We should demand that Acolyte Luna relinquish these proofs to our priests. We may then search out these tombs. The holy daughter waves her hand dismissively. Not one of you knew of the kings of corruption before Acolyte Luna spread the word of the tombs. By all rights, none but I should have known of their existence. Even then, I did not know of hidden tombs. We will not interfere with Acolyte Luna's business at this juncture, but he is to be monitored at all times, his coming and going. Should he venture into the valley, I want to be informed immediately. The priests look among themselves with uncertainty. Never had an acolyte received such attention from the Holy Daughter. The Holy Daughter herself ignores them until they excuse themselves. Cole feels a sense of danger flash over him for a moment before it dissipates. The only thing he can do is focus on his tasks. Over the course of a couple of weeks, Cole's status as an official class trainer is solidified. The number of class change manuals stacks up at a rapid pace, freeing Cole up to turn to his next endeavors. He has a fair amount of experience drawing inscriptions using the blood of beasts found in the Crimson Valley. Now, though, he has much more magical blood to work with. The green demon blood is filled with mystical potency, but the souls of demons are far more unruly than mere beasts. And the blood isn't technically of a dead being. Demons exist in the twisted domains. Elemental and primal, in these domains, the souls of demons are bound. They return when killed in realms beyond. The demons that had been killed in the Crimson Valley of Planet Rune return to their home domains on death, waiting for the fell energies to resurrect them. The only true way to kill a demon is to go into its home dimension and kill it where its soul is bound. This is why Cole feels no urgency to use the demon blood in inscriptions. This the chaotic energies will continue to be difficult to work with, no matter how long he keeps the blood. Now, though, Cole feels prepared to tangle with the demon blood. But sitting by his shop, Cole puts quill to vellum and draws decisive lines and cuneiform runes. But as soon as he begins, Cole feels a backlash in his psyche. The demon in its twisted realm struck out with a mental attack. Cole spasms in his chair and watches a drop of red blood fall down onto the vellum. He brings his hand to his nose and feels wetness. His fingers come away bloody. Attribute unlocked. Mental resistance. Mental resistance 1. Cole chuckled. All he received was a bloody nose to unlock a new attribute. Not a bad trade. Cole had stockpiled a sizable amount of legacy experience for his evolution meter, but now it's time to splurge. Cole spends a tragic amount of XP to buy 4 points in mental resistance to bring it up to a total of 5 points. Cole discards the wasted parchment and begins with a new demon's blood. This time he feels the demon lash out at him as before, but he doesn't receive any psychological damage. It becomes a competition of stamina and resilience. He fails again, but his proficiency grows by a small measure. Cole spends the day filling vellum after vellum with demon blood, all to get a few successful scrolls. But these scrolls carry a power that far outstrips the beast blood inscriptions. That said, for the first time since he came to Cosmos, he truly feels beat. The day done, Cole finds sleep in his room easily. The following day sees more vellum spent. Are you all right, Cole? The voice is familiar. Ah, it's you, Wulon. Cole looks up with sunken eyes. The demon blood is more difficult to manage than he had expected, but that doesn't mean he isn't making progress. Yep, it's me. The young woman is a fairy like existence, coming and going like the wind. But she continues, what's wrong with you? You seem weaker than usual. Not that you're weak, just you seem sick. Ah, he says tiredly. Just dealing with demons. It's nothing I can't handle. Demons, she echoes, her eyes lingering on on the green blood smeared on the vellum. I see, she says. Well, don't overdo it. Go take a nap when you get the chance. Cole nods and casts aside the ruined vellum before starting on the next. Wulon watches him for a while before interrupting him again. Cole, when will we be going on the expedition? He takes a deep breath, steadying his hand. Soon. I'm still waiting for one more proof. The expedition will the expeditions will follow. This news brings a smile to the fairy's face. I'll be prepared when the time comes. Cole nods absent-mindedly and returns to work. The young woman disappears unnoticed. Mental resistance 7. He couldn't help it. As much as he needs to upgrade his evolutionary rank, the demon blood is too taxing for him to not boost his resistance. Otherwise, he will just be wasting perfectly good demon blood. He may still have thousands of vials of demon blood, but at the rate he's wasting it, it won't last long. Fortunately, these new points of resistance make a world of difference. As the days progress, his sunken eyes and ashen face brighten with renewed vigor. Goldie returned repeatedly, always asking for stones and scrolls. Cole thinks for a while and realizes that the players were not the same noobs they had been before. He can share the Saint Stones and Dragonfly Ink scrolls and not wreck the balance. Probably. Throwing his hands up in the air, Cole exclaims, "Fine." Really? Goldie asks blankly. The barbarian might have made the request, but it was more out of habit than true expectation. A sudden grin claims Goldie's face. Well, come on, man. Let me see your wares. Cole sighs and organizes his table to add space for the stones and scrolls. These new items will be hot ticket items, not the niche crafting materials he's been selling. Thus, Cole feels no guilt in elevating the prices of the Saint Stones and Scrolls to what would be higher than market value if there were a market for these items. Goldie looks at the prices with a serious expression. He's running calculations in his head. He had to balance the cost of the items against the other things he needs to buy for his leveling progress. Can I get a discount? Cole looks at the man blankly. You're neutral with me. If you want a discount, at least reach friendly. Goldie has a vacant look in his eyes as he pulls up the reputation tab and sees how far from friendly he is. A smile comes over his face. Cool, my friend. Do you by any chance have any new quests you would be willing to share with me? Something you value, like enough to give me 50 reputation points? Cole stares at the greedy bastard for a few minutes. The fearsome barbarian feels uncomfortable under the intense gaze, but doesn't walk away. He wonders if a new quest is being generated, and that's is why the NPC had frozen. He isn't wrong either. Cole had thought of something he would be needing soon. Quest name: Elemental Madness 5. Description: Colina has tasked you with harvesting 10 null element crystals from the corpses of elite elementals in the time lost grotto in the southeastern Crimson Valley. The player is advised to hunt in a party of 5 members. Rewards: 10,000 XP, plus 50 reputation with Cole Luna. The quest is shared, and Goldie examines it for a moment before licking his lips. Now that's what I'm talking about, brother. Cole waves the burly man away and continues working on his inscription. It doesn't take long for word of the new quest to spread throughout the faction's players. A rush of eager players comes, excited about the new party play. Cole freely gives out the quest to any, and an exodus of sorts happens. When players advertise themselves, where players advertise themselves and their growing parties. LFG, Ranger with 10 agility and 10 dexterity. LF1M, need a healer. LF4M, no scrubs. If Cole didn't know any better, he'd think that a festival had started. In the excitement for the new quest, few notice the new items in Cole's store. The few that did have little little reservation in buying up as many stones and scrolls as they can Not everyone is as stingy as the barbarian. The clamor of excitement carries on for some time, but Cole is able to tune it out and focus on his craft. He even boosts his success rate to over 30%. A lot of demon blood goes to waste, but the scrolls he does create could completely change the dynamic of the player community. That is, of course, if they could afford the high value items. As the day runs down, the first teams are returning with the spoils of their campaign. Each member brings back 10 null elemental crystals, 50 per group. Goldie is among the first to reach friendly with Cole, and he's eager to take advantage of that friendship. Uh, a 10% discount? You sure it's not 15%? Cole stares blankly at Goldie. This causes the barbarian to chuckle sheepishly. Okay, the big man says, I'll buy this, and oh, definitely this. Cole sighs. I don't need to hear your inner monologue. Goldie smiles wolfishly. Come on, we're friends now. No need for hostility. Cole just rolls his eyes. As the players return bloodied and battered, they proceed directly to Cole to complete their quests. Only when Only then do most of the players realize that Cole had broken his taboo on selling his high value wares. The only thing keeping his stock from selling out is the high cost. But even the cheapest player buys one item. As the day's light dwindles, Cole yawns and closes shop. There is disappointment in the hearts of those who returned too late and will have to wait for the following day to turn in their quests. Cole finds sleep easily and washes away a lot of the weariness that had accumulated in recent days. Truly, dealing with demonic forces is not good for one's health. But Cole is insistent on the need to continue his current project. Jake Snow watches his teacher in the following days. The boy can't help but be concerned by the change in the NPC. He's more irritable and short with the players, and by the evening of every day, Cole slouches over from exhaustion as he closes up shop and goes to bed. Teacher, the boy interrupts his mentor early in the afternoon one day. Hmm? Teacher, you don't seem well. Cole sighs. Yeah, I know. Teacher, why do you need to practice with demon blood? Cole thinks about it for a minute. It's not so much a need as a task. I have been amassing several tools that can assist me in the future. The demon blood inscriptions are just one of the tools I intend to have in my arsenal. Jake Snow looks down, and mumbles, You shouldn't do so many. Cole raises an eyebrow, hearing the boy express himself. Usually, Jake wouldn't tell him what to do, but he feels strongly on this issue. Ha, Cole sighs. Getting told off by his pupil leaves a bad taste in his mouth. You're right, Cole admits. The boy looks up, pleased to hear his teacher accept what he'd said. I won't give up on them entirely, but I'll only do 3 a day. That way get I should get at least one successful each day. The boy nods his agreement. Besides, Cole continues, I have something else worth working on. Come over here. The boy approached Cole's crafting table, where Cole brings out a pair of translucent white crystals. Do you know what these are? The boy nods. Those are the crystals you sent the players to get. Exactly, Cole confirms. Here, this one's for you. Jake Snow receives one of the crystals and watches as Cole brings out his engraving knife. Do you know anything about runes? The boy shakes his head. Runes, Cole continues. are words of power in arcane languages. They're like sigils, but their expression is less abstract and more definite. Runes for fire and fire type spells can be engraved into objects like these null element crystals, changing the attribute of the crystal from null to fire. The same can be done with other elements. Depending on the sequence of runes, a story can be scripted into the crystal. Say I engrave runes for fire, tempest, and wall. I can create a spell that consumes the enemy in a barrier of flowing fire. Essentially, I create a spell, but it's different from what I would make with a scroll. When a scroll is activated, it casts its spell and the scroll disintegrates. But with a crystal like this, I can imbue not only a spell, but several charges. The more mana imbued into the crystal, the more charges. And the mana can come from anyone, not just the engraver. The immortals can even charge their crystal many times over after using them. Jake Snow listens in rapt attention. This was the first time his teacher had gone into such depth on the techniques behind the class. Up till now, Jake hadn't even touched a vellum, and now Cole was teaching him about engraving crystals. Watch, Cole says as he begins engraving a simple set of runes into the crystal. It doesn't take long, and soon Cole has a finished crystal. Seeking to demonstrate the effect, he turns to an empty patch of land and activates the charge. A small magic circle forms in the air before the crystal, and a jet of water flows out in a line for some distance. The spell looks like it would have the force to strip skin from bone if used in offense. Jake Snow watches with wide-eyed interest as the demonstration ends. All right, here. Cole hands the boy the finished crystal and a dozen more raw crystals. Practice with these in addition to your stone engravings. I'll work on some more crystals on my own for the rest of the day. The boy is relieved that his mentor is willing to cut back on the demon blood inscriptions and even more excited to have a new training exercise to practice. Cole turns from the boy and starts to work in earnest on the null element crystals. The new routine, and particularly the limit of demon blood inscriptions, does a world of good for Cole's psyche. He is still sufficiently challenged to grow his understanding of the souls of demons, and the switch to null element crystals engravings adds a new and formidable tool to his arsenal. The sale of saint stones and magic scrolls levels off to an equilibrium where he only needs to expend a little of his time resupplying the spent merchandise, and the customer base is only too happy to buy from his stock. The first batch of players who raise their reputation points with him to friendly get a 10% discount from his store. These trailblazers incentivize other more casual players to apply themselves to his numerous repeatable quests. That's not to say that all the players are completely satisfied. One day, while Cole is busy etching a sequence of runes and sigils into a crystal, a familiar figure is complaining. Come on, Cole. I know you have blood inscriptions burning a hole in your inventory. Just sell me one of or two, or even give me a quest with one as a reward. Cole tries to ignore the greedy barbarian. And, Goldie continues, those crystals look good too. I'll pay extra. Cole looks up from his engraving. Aren't you a warrior? What do you need so many magic items for? Goldie smiles a vicious smile. Utility is utility. If I can blow up a monster with an item rather than bringing my axe down on its head, I might as well. Cole shrugs. That's your prerogative, but I'm not selling those items at this moment. The barbarian sighs. But you will sell them soon. Cole's eyes narrow. Don't put words in my mouth. All right, all right. I'll just take it the usual. Goldie is a particularly spendthrift player when it comes to Cole's store. He stocks up on mostly buffing saint stones, but his taste for magic scrolls is wide and varied. This time the boy this time he buys several area of effects lightning and fire scrolls. The barbarian is very active in hunting the elementals in the time lost grotto. He's farming reputation points with Cole, and the five-man party quest gives the most bang for the buck in terms of reputation points. Cole has to wonder if he has kicked off an escalation in player capability by sending the players off on high level quests and supplying them with superior magic items. The players in the other territories are still questing on stale quest lines. The daily repeatable quests are a specialty of Cole's at this stage of the game. By the time the play by the time the Red Sect players encountered the lawful good players, they might just steamroll over the opposing force. In Cosmos, territorial wars fought by players can decide the flow of resources and even change the political status of kingdoms. In some ways, Cole feels a pity for the Arclight Kingdom that shares a border with the Red Sect. Not enough to stop his plans, but he still isn't sure how the world would look if the chaotic evil Red Sect rose to prominence. Cole puts such thoughts aside and focuses on his etching. He can feel a growing wellspring of comprehension filling his mind. Class advancements aren't all hierarchical. It isn't as simple as advancing to a higher class. Engraver was already a defined class. Turning it into cartographer or calligrapher was an option and would refine his skills in engraving to some extent. However, narrowing the advancement would limit the variety of abilities he could employ, and the class advancement won't get rid of his engraver class. Engraver will just become a subclass, while his new class became the primary. Still, to advance without losing the subclass, one had to choose a relevant class to advance to. Cole wasn't gonna become a knight or a samurai with his engraver class. A humble crafting class known as enchanter. And Cole had known for some time what class he was going to advance to, a humble crafting class known as enchanter. The enchanter class will provide a qualitative boost to his engravings. Whereas engravers carved and drew, enchanters used dust and mana. Both both professions could synergize to great effect. Usually, one would need a class change manual to advance to enchanter, but there was no such item in existence at this point in the game. Cole will have to improvise. The null element crystals he had been carving into aren't meant for sale. They're meant for his efforts to cultivate the enchanter class. The elemental runes he carves into the crystals change the very makeup of the items. When crushed into powder, the resulting magical dust carries unique characteristics that will imbue whatever item he enchants with those attributes. There is much more involved than just drizzling a handful of powder onto an item. Many other materials, rarer than null element crystals, will be necessary. However, his overflowing supply of crystals will provide a strong foundation for the class advancement. Setting his thought, Settling his thoughts, Cole approaches the general store. Hey there, Cole. What can I get for you? The middle aged woman was familiar and friendly. Due to how many purchases he's made from her store, he had become friendly with her and reached a 10% discount on all her goods and received a 10% discount on all her goods. Cole finds an item that had been in his eye for some time, a large mortar and pestle. In addition, he purchases a large number of flasks he can use to hold the resulting dust. The woman is only too happy to accept his coin, smiling ear to ear at his order. Take care, Cole. I'll let you know if I get any new stock. Cole nods and returns to his place in the forum. Placing the mortar and pestle on his table, Cole pulls out a finished crystal. Unconcerned for the value of the item, if he were to sell it to the players, he decisively begins to pulverize the item. Then comes another of the same kind, and another. Under the shocked gazes of many players, Cole reduced valuable and coveted items to dust, indifferent to the horror of the players. When the bowl is filled with fine dust, Cole takes out flasks and scoops the arcane dust into them, and then he begins the process again. Eventually, the horror on the faces of the players turns to curiosity. While Cole busily destroys engraved crystals, a blond man approaches. What you doing? Comes the attractive Dancing Dagger's query. Cole looks up, preparing. Dancing Dagger cocks his head to the side. Preparing for what? Cole leans back in his seat. I'm preparing to advance. Dancing Dagger had already reached friendly with him, so he doesn't need to be dismissive. Plus, there was no point in hiding it. The blond man's eyes narrow. You mean a class advancement? Cole nods. NPCs could grow just like players, though most didn't. The thing was that this early in the expansion, none of the players knew the process. Unless they find an advanced spellbook or a class trainer and master their base class, advancement is impossible. Cole's advantage is a decade of experience in a game he loved. He knew how to brute force his way to the next step. Dancing Dagger looks from him to the table. Is there anything you can't do, Cole? The question is flattering, but also skeptical. Cole thinks for a moment. I can't die and come back to life. Dancing Dagger smiles. I think what you can do is much more amazing. Cole shrugs and asks, Are you buying or talking? Dancing Dagger shrugs. Just talking, this time. Well, then go away. I'm busy. The blond man nods and says in parting, See you later. The process of getting dust uh, carries over to the next day until he runs out of engraved crystals. But it's fine. He'd engrave more as he needs them. But he has enough to begin. Among the many vendors of the forum, several blacksmiths sell their wares. The items are mostly junk in Cole's eyes, but they will serve his purposes. Cole buys a large number of daggers and swords. The advantage of the junk status of the iron weapons is that they are cheap. The reason there are so many to buy is that the weapons have a high propensity for breaking during use. He gains a reputation with the vendors, causing their eyes to soften towards him. Cole purchases another table that he stows in his inventory and returns to work. When he begins the process, he does not differentiate between engraving and enchanting. He carves runes of power into the iron blades, creating spell structures focused on a base of increased durability and certain buffs to the user of the blade. The dusts are imbued with mana and differentiated between the various types of magic formations born into the crystals before they're dusted. The process is considerably more time intensive than when drawing sigils on vellum, and there's no first and last between engraving and enchanting. Both were co occurring efforts. The first dagger he successfully enchants has a nice silver aura around it that testifies to the new magical qualities in it. Then Cole repeats the process with a sword. Certain augments like durability and self-sharpening from the base of the form the base of the remade sword. It has to be said that there was a limit to the load a given item could take. There was only so much room on the blade for engraving, and too much dust would overwrite other enchantments. As Cole fashions the basic weapons into something far more formidable, he draws the attention of the players. What's he doing? A voice questions. I think he's turning the sword into a spell sword. Does that mean he's an enchanter? I don't know. I thought his class was engraver. The rabble gossips about amongst themselves while Cole completes and stows magic daggers and swords. Cosmos had an item rating system, and more specifically, weapons and armor ratings. The weapons Cole had purchased were of the common rating. Above the common rating were uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, and artifact. With Cole's level of skill in enchanting, most of his finished pieces were a rank higher than their base as uncommon finished works. But due to the addition of the engravings he modified the pieces with, he would occasionally succeed in creating a rare item. As the days grows longer, a familiar blond man approaches. Hey, Cole, he says in a friendly tone. Cole looks up from his work on on an enchanted dagger. He can see the covetous look in Dancing Dagger's eyes. Hey, he says in greeting. The attractive man looks from Cole to the dagger and back. I don't suppose you're selling weapons now, are you? Cole shakes his head. I'm not planning to. Dancing Dagger's shoulders deflate. Then what are you doing with so many weapons? I heard you've been working all day. Cole looks down at the dagger on his table. I was thinking of giving them out as rewards. The word reward immediately re energizes Dancing Dagger. Oh, what do you need? You know you can count on me for whatever quest you need to be completed. Cole shrugs. I'm still thinking about it. The player isn't discouraged and says, I'll be sure to check with you often. Don't leave me hanging too long. Cole nods and continues his work as Dancing Dagger walks away. The next few days are busy, and with Cole modifying weapons of increasing variety, from axes to hammers, anything he can get from the vendors dealing in such items. All the while, players spy on his labors before from a distance. Some come up fishing for some rare quest that Cole was rumored to be preparing. As an NPC, Cole had grown quite aloof to the persistent attention of the players. So long as they don't attack him, he doesn't mind them following his every move. One day, while he's busy with his crafting, a dark figure in gray leather armor approaches his table. As with most of the players, Cole recognizes the player. But this player isn't talkative like Dancing Dagger or Goldie. Still, the player had been dutifully farming a reputation with him for some time and had reached the friendly status. His name was Shadowmaster, the black haired figure of a vaguely Asian ethnicity, simply places a beautiful gold pen in front of Cole. It takes a moment for Cole to understand, and he picks up the proof. Engraved into the side of the pen are the words, "Fallen is the moon. Our king's teeth are broken." The proof should be referencing a part of the valley inhabited by the lycanthrope. Cole nods and completes Shadowmaster's quest. The silent figure hesitates for a moment. Cole understands. "When I go, I'll be sure to bring you." The player nods and quietly leaves. Left alone, Cole is in deep thought. The four proofs had been found: a ring, a shield, a drumstick, and a pen. These items will be necessary for entering the tombs for the first time. In his previous lifetime, the players didn't discover the tombs until the second expansion. Most players in the vanilla game simply killed monsters and completed the odd quest for that came from the NPCs. Cole had already changed the course of Cosmos history by introducing advanced engraving items to the populace, but that would be as nothing before opening the dungeons of the Four Kings of Corruption to the players. Cole sets aside the pen and returns to his work. He will need a sufficient stockpile of enchanted weapons for his next step. The days drag on as the arsenal of uncommon and rare weapons filled Cole's limitless inventory. He feels that his proficiency in enchanting is close to a breakthrough, yet he has not received a notification of class change. It truly wasn't so easy to break through to an advanced class. It would be different if he had a class trainer or even a class change manual, but no, he has to build his proficiency in the old fashioned way. Fortunately, very few knew of his augmented weapons. Fortunately, very few of his augmented weapons were failures. He might have 2% of his engraved and enchanted weapons turned to scrap under botched crafting, which is a high level of success for any craftsman. Cole minds his business, unconcerned for the world, when Dancing Dagger approaches. I think I'm going to call it here for now. I'll continue this story soon. I've got a lot more to come, so I'll talk to you, read to you next time.